I think about burnout, it like moves into a world where I would describe it as this is a psychological malady that needs support versus you just behaving different.
Right.
Is that making sense?
It is, but I don't necessarily think it's a psychological malady. And I think that because if you change your environment, it can go away. Mm-hmm. So it does not stay with you necessarily. If it's true burnout,
yep,
then it doesn't stay with you if you don't move jobs.
Okay, I agree. I take it back. It's not a psychological malady.
Yeah.
But it's leading to clinically significant psychological distress.
It could. Yes.
Well, you keep saying it could versus it does. What's the could?
Well,
so you're saying it might not.
Well, I think people who are burned out, they may still show up and get the job done. They may not show psychological distress to most people they interact with.
Welcome back, Rob. Good to see you.
Twice, 2 episodes in a row, we are in person.
This is, I tell you what, this could become a habit.
I think so. I think you could just fly to St. Louis every time.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to pay for it, but I think you will.
Yeah, I'll play. It's worth it. Totally worth it. Just for this hour together. Yes.
No, but I'm excited to be able to do this again. I think we have a packed show for everyone today. And we're going to start playing around with a couple different segments.
Okay.
And I think we got some good feedback on a segment we did last week, starting the episode with an "Am I the asshole?" question on Reddit. So I thought we would start our conversation today by just talking about one that I found that I thought was interesting.
Just perusing.
Perusing.
Okay.
And I think hopefully this will encourage everyone else to go on the "Am I the asshole?" Reddit thread and see, because some of these things are sad and some people need help, and some of these things are comic gold.
Yes.
This one is not comic gold. This one is quite curious.
Yes. Actually, now that we're talking about it, if people find one that you want us to react to, you can email it to us.
Please do.
Yeah.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. Shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com.
Yes. Please email it to us because we would be happy to talk about it. Okay. So I'm going to set up. I'm going to read this short description.
Okay.
And then I would like for us to react to it. Now, I think we're going to have probably a similar reaction to this one.
Yeah.
So I may take a slightly different perspective just for fun.
Just for fodder. Okay.
Okay. This one, am I the asshole for thinking my wife is gaslighting me? I, 40-year-old male, was at a pool party with my wife, who is also 40. It was late afternoon, and we were in a jacuzzi with others. First off, okay, kind of an interesting pool party. Like, I think pool party, I don't think of like being in a jacuzzi with other people, but okay. I'll put that aside for a minute. I looked down at the bubbles and saw a foot rubbing on a guy's, and he provides this gentleman's age, 42. On this
because it matters.
It matters. Rubbing on a guy's junk next to me.
I guess it's better that it wasn't a young kid's junk.
Maybe that's true. She's
age appropriate.
Yeah, age appropriate. When I looked over in the direction of the foot, I saw it was my wife's foot. Long story short, I got out and told her we needed to leave. When I confronted her in the car, she denied it at first, but later admitted to it, and a 4-month emotional affair of texting, calling, and confiding in each other. She vehemently denies any sexual contact with him. So this gentleman wants to know, am I the asshole for not believing her as she insists nothing else happened and wants to move forward and not discuss it anymore? I think there's an easy answer to that question.
The answer is, for sure, he's not the asshole. She is the asshole.
Correct.
Can I just lay the case out really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, the idea that there's two things at play. One is he the asshole for not believing her? And the second is about whether or not we should not make a big deal of it.
Right.
So first of all, he should definitely not believe her because she had physical contact right in front of him. If you're giving some guy a foot job, that's a
foot job.
That's physical contact.
I would believe so. And no pun intended. That's a ballsy move.
Right in front of you.
Right. Like that does make me think, like, is there some, like, why do that? Like she doesn't want to keep it secret. Like there's something else going on there. Like if I'm doing something like that a foot away from my husband and there's just some bubbles, like that's not That's not like an opaque, like different, like
Yeah.
it's right there.
Well, I think that there's a, whatever the psychological mechanism is that makes people exhibitionists.
Yeah.
I think there's the same,
That's
like,
that's
the
what I
same
was looking for. Yeah.
allure of we're doing it right under his nose.
Yes.
Look how bad we are.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm a dirty girl.
I guess. All right. So
So I think she's an asshole. So you definitely should not. You definitely should not believe her. And then the second thing is, which I think is a wild move and a very narcissistic move, is for the abuser, the cheater, the one who's victimized you, to turn around and be like, "Hey, can you calm down and let's not talk about it. I'd like to not be held accountable.
Right.
Let's stop the whole conversation."
Right. I don't want to
That's
talk about it anymore.
Crazy position.
Right. I don't want to talk about it anymore because
Yeah.
A, I want this to go away, or B, I don't want to let you know it's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. You're being irrational
Yes.
for being so upset about what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yes. So I think that's the answer.
Yes.
If I had to put myself in his wife's shoes,
Yes. Yes. You've gotten caught.
I've gotten caught,
Mm-hmm.
with my, feet in a place where, I would assume my husband would not want my feet to be doing. And then I've also tried to deny it.
Yes.
But maybe it's true. Maybe I don't know what's going on at home. Maybe my husband is not very, not very supportive, not around, not very emotionally available. And so I found a friend who I can be that person with.
That sounds a lot like you're having an affair.
Okay.
Yeah, but
And also she does not,
Yes.
she claims that she's not done anything physically outside of
yes,
tickling his private parts with her toes.
I will say it does seem unlikely that they never had any physical contact. It was just an emotional affair, and their first physical contact, she decided to do it right in front of her husband.
It does seem
like
unlikely.
that seemed like we were escalating something that probably wouldn't need to be escalated if it was the first time.
Right. I'm finding myself really struggling to put myself in her shoes.
Yeah. How do you defend?
I don't
her?
know how you defend that.
My feet were cold, and I just was trying
In a hot tub.
trying to get a hot pocket. Yeah.
I think what strikes me more when I read this one and others is there's only, from what this person is typing in, there's only one clear answer to the question. Is no, you're not the asshole. So why would he think he's the asshole in the first place? Does he feel bad that he doesn't believe his wife?
So no, I think that he's posting because he knows that everybody in the comments is going to say your wife is a real asshole, and he feels very right. He's been mistreated and alone, and this is a way to get a whole community behind him and be like, yeah, you're being mistreated.
He's looking for support.
He needs support.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be. So back to the love languages. That's maybe part of that. That would be a new love language for him, would be to be supported, emotionally supported.
Right. That would make sense.
That's what he's looking for.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Hopefully
that's what
he hears this.
Hopefully he hears it, and we are also supporting him
Yes,
here.
there you go.
He gets 2 more people who are on his team.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Dave, you mentioned love languages, which was of course the topic of our episode last week. Well, I was reading some of the comments that we received, and one thing stood out to me that was maybe something we could have talked about, and we didn't. So I wanted to talk about it now. So someone in a comment mentioned, what about other love languages? Of course, there aren't just 5.
Oh, yeah.
Would there be other love languages? And so this person listed out a few, and it made me think, if I were to add to that list, what would be in other love languages? And one that occurred to me that I don't know if this fits or not, and I think the person who wrote the comment put it in here, but something about, there's feeling supported, but there's also and maybe this is acts of service potentially, but financial support, wanting to feel not just emotionally supported, but financially supported. So I can imagine that would be something that is important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is to feel that type of support.
Yeah.
That is not just emotional.
Just the global. I mean, it's almost like it would be like protection.
Yeah,
or
that would be a better way of thinking about it.
I'm going to offer you an umbrella so that
Right.
you don't get hit with any financial storms or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that being a love language.
Yeah. I agree.
What else would you add to that list of potential love languages that might not be encompassed in that original list of 5?
Can we go back to the financial one?
Yeah.
Because if I think about it, like the love language being the protection, does that mean that if that were a love language, then that would have to apply that there would be moments when if I wanted to show my wife that I love her via protection, does that mean how is that different than buying gifts?
Like gifts or acts of service? I would say it's not necessarily, to me, it's not necessarily like buying a token of affection. So to me, gifts is like a token of affection. Mm-hmm. It is more the kind of large scale, long term just support that comes with being financially stable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I may not be a great person at expressing my emotions. I may not buy gifts.
Yeah.
Those two things actually describe me.
But you have life insurance.
But I have life insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm more planned and prepared in that way.
Yeah.
And now my wife would do that regardless of whether I did it or not too. And we're pretty equal in our household as far as who brings in money and all that stuff. But I could imagine that would be something that is important to some people in some relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. The other one I was thinking about would be, I don't know do you think respect could be a love language on its own? Like
respect.
People don't have to say it. Maybe I don't need to hear that you think I'm great. Like maybe I don't need the words of affirmation, but if I just know that you respect me.
How would I know that? Because I asked the question because I'm thinking it's like a act of service.
Well, I think about if I think about at work, I mean, I joke about I would be okay if everybody just walked around applauding me all the time.
And other people think that that's what's really important too. Yes.
Yes. And yet they don't applaud. But
they don't respect you.
Yes, but if I maybe I don't need the applause if at the core of it I feel like everybody respects me. Is that so how you, I guess your question was, well, how do you see it or how would you know it? You'd have to know it by, I guess, I don't know.
Would it be like people seeking out, like I'm trying to think about it because I work with leaders who find respect to be important. Mm-hmm. And we talked about when we did our episode about introverts and extroverts, sometimes introverts feel less respected, at least in part because they don't ask for much recognition. Yeah. So I wonder if people sought out your sage advice.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That would help you feel respected.
Then I wouldn't need to have a podcast to force people to listen to me.
That makes two of us.
You're not going to listen to me? Fine, I'm going to force it on you. Yeah.
But that's what comes to mind for me is that would be a sign.
Yes, I think so. People come to you. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That feels but that feels super needy. Like, you remember we were talking about that last time, like what feels needy when we were doing the Am I the Asshole, but it almost feels like, come kiss my ring. Yeah. Like it feels, is there a positive way of looking at this?
About needing respect?
Yeah. Like I think I'm thinking about it more negatively.
Well, I think it's not. I mean, it's funny because I'm just trying to sort of think about it outside of a relationship. I think that anybody that works in medicine, academia, like those kind of industries, public service, any of those kind of roles, the incentive is not financial. The incentive isn't always in the form of a gift, but the incentive is in the form of status. The incentive is in the form of positive regard from the community. Yeah. So there is a very human need for appreciation or to have that status. And for some people, they want to be the employee of the month. Those people are the more words of affirmation type of people. Right. Whereas other people, they're okay if they're not on the wall, but they want to make sure that everybody that works with them really respects them. Right. So I guess as I'm talking, I'm thinking this is a normal thing. And of course, in a relationship, you'd also want to feel acknowledge, for your spouse or partner to respect you. Yeah, yeah. I think so.
I think you're right.
Yeah. It's funny because, when we were talking about the love languages, you were saying that there's not very much research that shows that those 5 languages are actually There's
consistent.
they're not consistent. There's not a lot of data behind them, which suggests to me that there must be other love languages then.
Right.
But I don't know what the other ones, like what does the research say that people are using to describe love?
What's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because there was a book, and I can't remember what year the book was published, but it's by a Christian author, and the whole point of the book is about how men desire respect in relationships and women desire love in relationships.
Okay.
And it's a very, in a kind of Christian circles, very popular. And it's interesting that Gary Chapman, who's religious, didn't use those two.
Pull from that. Yeah, you're right.
It's weird. It's like sort of a separation in the religious writings.
Yeah, right. But I think, I could see that, the respect being one of the bigger holes in those five. So.
What else? Anything else you can think of?
I think that's it. Let's move on to the main event. So I have prepared for you today a conversation that I'm surprised we haven't had before on the show, particularly given what we do professionally. I want to talk to you about burnout. And specifically, I want to talk about this because I think burnout is one of those widely misused psychological terms.
Okay.
Like we talk about, we've talked about these terms before in the past. Like trauma is one of them that gets thrown around a lot. And I think burnout has become one of those terms that has entered the kind of popular culture over the past 10 or 20 years. And people refer to things as burnout that aren't really burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think that burnout can, although it emerges from a workplace setting, I also think that burnout can occur across different parts of someone's life. So I've talked to you a little bit about that. And then we can talk about things that you can do if you're experiencing burnout, of course, what we would recommend to people. So let's start with what it is, where it can come across, and what to do about it.
Okay.
So I'll start by reading, and I have it up here, a definition of burnout. Actually, before I do that, though, describe burnout for me. If you were to describe it without knowing what it is, what would you say it is?
I would describe burnout. As when you are tired of doing something. Typically, it's your job, but it could be other things. It could be in a relationship or whatever. When you're tired of doing something that you've done for a long time, and as a consequence, you become disengaged and have negative psychological symptoms.
Yep.
Is that close?
I think it's pretty close. So what I'll read, Maslow is a researcher from the 70s, and I remember in my organizational psychology PhD program, we talked about her in our classes. So she created an inventory a long time ago and iterated upon it from there. But she started working in the 70s and would talk about burnout as a psychological syndrome resulting from chronic interpersonal stressors on the job. And these stressors are marked by emotional exhaustion, cynicism or depersonalization, and reduced personal accomplishment.
Now, you just said that, but it's triggered by interpersonal issues?
From chronic interpersonal stressors in the job.
So that is not how I would have thought. So it's not, I'm tired of whatever. I'm tired of doing this repeated type of work. It's in particular typically driven by relationship stuff.
Oh, I did not catch that before. I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, you're right. I would not describe it, if I was describing it, as it being the result of an interpersonal issue.
Yeah. But that's what the research says. That's interesting.
The definition I came up with found, but that did not make sense to me, or I did not catch that before. But I do want to talk about a little bit kind of those components that we talked about. So emotional exhaustion is a component of it. And so that emotional exhaustion can emerge from I am tired of something, and it's the result of the job that I'm doing. So there's something about my task, or maybe my interactions with people that I work with, that is causing me a good deal of exhaustion at work.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm interested in the interpersonal side of things. Just like if I were to, like, now that I'm thinking about it differently and sort of exploring it. Maybe you don't get. If we look at like the pure definition of burnout, maybe you can get tired of something or fatigued by something, or you can hate something, but it's unlikely to cause you psychological distress unless there's a relationship involved. Unless there's people involved at some level, maybe you don't feel the same psychological distress. You might, you know what I mean? If you're working in isolation, you
can get burned out from that, can't you?
Well, it's interesting. Maybe not. Like, give me an example of, because there's a distinction between I'm sick of this job.
Yeah.
And I hate this job.
Right.
Versus I'm having negative psychological symptoms like anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
Like, does the anxiety and the depression follow only if there's a relationship dynamic at play? Like you have an asshole boss.
I think they overlap. I would say burnout is more episodic and more, I think, role specific than depression. I think of someone who's depressed as someone who experiences that state for longer periods of time and across different parts of their life.
Yes.
I feel like someone who's burned out experiences burnout episodically in a short term and only in one aspect of their life. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I guess I'm
I'm
debating it in my mind.
Yeah.
In that, I guess I would have thought about it like, and by the way, I'm changing my own definition just because I read what you just said or heard what you just said. But if you have a boss at work that's a major asshole,
Yep.
and you feel devalued at work, and you feel like you have no purpose at work, and you feel like your job is never going to change, and you're being, sort of emotionally blasted by your boss every day.
Yeah.
Then it can be hard for you to, you could be distressed at work, but also you may be anxious or depressed, and that might leak into other areas of your life. Like, I wonder if it does trigger, you know what I mean, a negative effect everywhere.
I think it could.
Yeah.
So maybe a way to think about it is not all people who are burned out are depressed. But, and I don't know this to be true, I'm just thinking about this off the cuff, but maybe people who are depressed may be more likely to feel burned out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you look at the research that you've done on burnout, because burnout was not part of my education.
Right.
It'd be more in your kind of realm. Is there a belief that burnout is it a consequence of one thing that can be fixed? Like, it's a problem if you change the work environment, you can solve the burnout.
Potentially, yeah. And so there are different theories or kind of structures behind why burnout exists. One of them that I learned about essentially said that burnout occurs because you are asked to do more than you are mentally, emotionally, or physically able to do. And so as a result of that, that difference in what you're able to do for your job and what the job demands of you, you experience burnout. That the expectations or the demands of the job outweigh what you're able to actually deliver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. But in that case, it's not, or I guess, so then the interpersonal side of it would be that you have a boss that's demanding it of you.
Potentially, yes. That could be an example.
When I hear, let me just kind of show my cards.
Yeah.
When I hear the term burnout, my immediate reaction is wimp.
Correct. I think...
Is that a bad reaction?
I don't think it's bad. Well, it could be bad. I think I have found myself over the years thinking that more, in part because people use this term so much. So, again, I like to get on Reddit, and when I was thinking about this, I was curious to see what people think about burnout when they talk about it on Reddit, and they post it into different subreddits. And I think a lot of people talk about burnout. A, some people are just depressed.
Yep.
B, that they don't like their job, but they're not burned out. C, they may have some sort of physical ailment. Like people who say I'm tired at my job, but I'm tired in a lot of parts of my life. Then that's not burnout.
Yeah.
So I think people, when they're talking about work and they talk about not liking their job, point to burnout as the reason for that. And I think that burnout can be a reason for that. But if this is you across jobs, then it's probably not burnout. Because burnout is a result of a specific role that you find yourself in.
Yes.
So that's part of the reason I think that people over-describe burnout as the reason that they're having an issue, when that's true for some people, but for other people, it's just an issue with them.
I think that's where I'm getting confused on it, is because when I think about it, if I think because of your work environment, you have negative psychological symptoms that carry over across your life, then I would be, I think, less of a wimp. I think this thing it's so difficult at work, or the environment is so caustic at work, that it's causing like real psychological symptoms. I guess what I'm reacting to when I say wimp is when you're bored at your job and doing nothing about it, or you don't have the level of agency to, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, not that you shouldn't do something if you're bored. I think you should respond if you don't like your job, or you don't like your boss, or you're bored by it. So it's not that I'm disempowering people and saying just suck it up, but I feel like you still have more agency to try and do something, versus when I think about burnout, it like moves into a world where I would describe it as this is a psychological malady that needs support versus you just behaving different.
Right.
Is that making sense?
It is, but I don't necessarily think it's a psychological malady. And I think that because if you change your environment, it can go away. So it does not stay with you necessarily. If it's true burnout, then it doesn't stay with you if you're doing your jobs.
Okay, I agree. I take it back. It's not a psychological malady.
Yeah.
But it's leading to clinically significant psychological distress.
It could. Yes.
Well, you keep saying it could versus it does. What's the could? So you're saying it might not.
Well, I think people who are burned out, they may still show up and get the job done. They may not show psychological distress to most people they interact with. Maybe it's only at home. So they may show up fine at work for a period of time, but they go home, if they have a significant other that they're living with, or family and friends, they complain about their job a lot. So I would say maybe people at work wouldn't always know that someone's burned out. I know that I've worked with a number of leaders who feel burned out, but are hesitant or scared to tell people or show people that they are burned out because of any sort of negative outcome that might affect them.
Because people like me would be like, you're a winner.
Correct. Yeah. Because they feel really supported by you.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I agree.
Okay. See, at some point, I feel like the podcast would be a lot shorter
if I would just get there faster.
If you just understood that what I said is true, and although you want to disagree, it's what I say is always true.
I'm really embarrassed that I can't believe I challenged.
I can't believe it. I can't believe you did it. So researchers who have come up with this framework also have described a couple of mismatches. So work-life mismatches that may induce burnout. So we talked about one of them already. I want to talk about a couple more. So one of them is workload. We've already talked about that. When the workload feels burdensome to the extent that I am unable to get the job done.
Okay, can I pause you before we do this section?
What?
Can you define for me how do I know if I am tired of my job, or if I hate my boss, or if I feel like I have no purpose? How do you separate that? Like we talked about the scope creep or the concept creep. What is the how does someone know this is burnout versus this is I just don't like my job?
Does someone know? I mean, my first thought is it could be people who are burned out don't like their job, but not everyone who doesn't like their job gets burned out. So there's a difference.
Yep.
So what causes that difference? So there might not be... Well, here, let's do this. Let me talk about some of these mismatches, and then let's see if that helps answer the question. Because I think it's a good question. Yeah. I don't have a good answer for it yet.
Okay.
So an example, at least in a workplace setting, would be workload. Like, again, that's what we talked about before. What I'm able to deliver is not meeting the expectation of the role.
Mm-hmm.
So burnout can occur if I feel like I'm doing the job of 3 people.
Yep. Okay.
So that makes sense to me. Control. And I thought this one was interesting. It's a lack of autonomy or influence over decisions. So I could feel burned out because I feel like I'm a cog in a wheel.
Yes.
That I'm given a script. I'm saying, go do this. And I'm adding to this a little bit, but it's monotonous.
Yeah. 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 You just have no sense of agency.
No agency,
You're just
we're talking about.
Yeah. You're just a pair of hands.
Yes. Correct. Reward. So we're talking about love languages before. If I feel like my work is not sufficiently rewarded or recognized, so I may feel like I'm delivering high expectations, and my boss or my organization does not recognize that, that may cause me to feel burned out.
Yeah.
Or that maybe I don't, that I guess that would just be it. It just makes me feel burned out. Community. This one would have never occurred to me, but this is, I think, where the interpersonal side comes into play. It's a lack of support or relationships at work. So in isolation. So some people could get burned out. Like I have a friend who works remotely. It was the first time she's worked remotely, and she didn't think it would be as big of a deal, but she has found over the past couple of months being in the job that it's very isolating.
Yeah.
And that her team, she's even described to me before, like we are a virtual team, but me and my boss are the only people who put on our cameras. So I don't even see most of these people, like their faces.
Yeah.
And because the job is, because of that, it makes her less interested or engaged in the job, and it burns her out. So she feels more likely to not want to invest her time and energy into the job.
Just out of curiosity, I'm gonna derail it. Is she introverted?
No.
No.
No, I would say she's one of those like people who probably falls
in
between. Yeah.
The research shows that it's worse for introverts
To what?
to be hybrid or working remotely.
Okay. I have a guess. Why?
You got a guess?
Well, I have a guess, but I'm asking you.
Because introverts think it's going. When you said she thought it would be fine, introverts, if you say, "Hey, you can go work in your basement, and you can keep your camera off," they'll go, "No big deal. I can do that."
Right.
And then they do it. Whereas an extrovert would go, "That's not going to happen for me." So they'll go out of their way, and they'll go connect with the team. They'll go out of their way. So like an extrovert gets agitated by that and does something, whereas an introvert, they like it. It's easier, but that's not that is not the medicine that they need, and they end up isolating.
Yeah, even more. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I would say for her, I think she thought that there would be more of that interaction just virtually.
Yeah.
And so it would get that need that she has met. And what she has found is that's not the case.
Yeah. Okay.
And I imagine the first time trying that is pretty. I remember when she was talking about it, I was like, oh, I mean, I know I personally could never do that. Yeah, that'd be difficult. Fairness. So unequal workloads. I feel that my boss is showing favoritism to one person over another. That can cause me to feel burned out or less valued.
Yeah.
And the last one gets at values. So what is important to me, I find out over time, or maybe pretty quickly, is not important to my organization. And because, and I'm filling in some blanks here, but because of the extra kind of emotional labor that takes for me to work in a place that does not align with my values, that causes me to feel more quickly burned out or less engaged at work.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think, when I've worked with leaders before, which one of these is more common than not? And I would say that for me, the workload one made complete sense. And I would say that is probably the default that I go to when I'm thinking of burnout. If I think of when I'm burned out or when someone else is burned out, it's because I feel like I don't have enough time. There's not enough hours in the day.
Okay.
I am surprised, but it makes sense that community one is in there. That need for relationships would cause people to feel burned out. And I think this gets back to your question. Is that really burnout, or does that mean I don't like the setup of my job?
Yeah, so I think, so if I look at this list, aside from the workload one, and I would almost, it's funny, I think my default would be to ignore the workload one, because I think 95% of my clients believe they're overworked. Everybody has a massive workload. Rarely does someone say, I got so much time, I'm going to go play squash.
Sure.
Right? Everybody always feels like they're full of work. But what creates the burnout, I think, is essentially the lack of purpose and the lack of connection. People need to feel like they have agency or they're making an impact. That people need to feel like they are. No one wants to be just a set of hands. And I think if you feel like you are a set of hands at work, it's really important that you connect your hands at work with something more meaningful outside of work, right? I might
agree.
be I might do landscaping, and what I'm doing is very manual, but I know that by doing this landscaping job, I'm getting my kids through school, and so I'm not going to get burned out, even though I'm working my ass off. So I think that is really important, and then feeling underappreciated, I think, is critical to burnout.
Yeah. I think you're right. The values one, and that's where I will kind of bucket what you just said about, having a greater meaning to what you do, I think makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I think, you and I, the population of people that we work with, well, I should say at least that I work with most frequently, they don't struggle with that as much. But I certainly know people in my personal life for whom that is an issue. Yeah. Where they're just doing a job because it's a job. And that's fine because, they may get paid well or because, they have to take care of a family and that's just what's there. But those are the folks that I imagine are more likely to feel burned out, but not do anything about it. Yeah. Or maybe just complain at home, but try to present in a way that would not cause other people to see that at work. I was just interviewing someone last week, and it was for a high level, like a VP of finance for an organization. And I asked this gentleman what motivates him. And I appreciated his transparency. But he's like, a job is a job. I'm here to take care of my family. Yeah. So, and he said it in a less blunt way than that, but that was essentially the takeaway is, I don't understand why everyone needs to feel so motivated. Yeah. I'm here to get paid well, to work hard, and to support my family. So he may be less likely to feel burned out, even if he has that orientation, because I agree. He's there for a reason. Yeah. Whereas someone who didn't have a family to support or didn't feel maybe the pressure of providing for others would find that same job, if he had the same orientation, very burdensome. Yep.
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's funny as you're talking about that and I'm thinking about this list, it's easy for things to start sliding downhill. We talk about the workload piece of it. That's kind of going to stay. You're not going to ever get your employer to stop doing those kinds of things. But the other things that would be relatively easy for your employer to address, like, for example, helping you have purpose in your work or listening to you or giving you community, you could sort of do it. But I think what happens is, I'm just thinking of a client in my mind where she feels like she works very hard, but nobody acknowledges on her team that she's working very hard. And when she leaves a team meeting, she feels like she's added a lot of value, and everybody else sort of is only focused on their piece of it. And no one says, hey, thank you for doing all the extra work. You did all this extra work. No one acknowledges it. Yep. And I think the reason is because those people are also in this place where they're sort of moving towards burnout, where they're wanting positive feedback or recognition for their work. And so my client is feeling like no one acknowledges what she does. So the last thing she's going to do is go out of her way to acknowledge anybody else. And everyone on the team is doing the exact same thing, right? The environment quickly slides. Yes. When somebody is burned out, they're very unlikely to contribute to support other people. And on a team, correct, no one's supporting anybody, then you're going to get burnout all around.
I agree with you. This makes me think back to our conversation last week about love languages. And if people have different love languages, that can cause conflict. Yeah. And I think that the same thing could play out with burnout. Again, these researchers talk about work-life mismatch. So in the example that you just shared, there is a mismatch between this person's expectations and what she's getting in return.
Yes.
Others may not see it that way. They may see, oh, she's paid well, or she has
Right.
a lot of autonomy. But
Right.
unfortunately, what she's looking for, her work language or whatever we want to call it,
Yeah.
saying, well, yeah, but that's not what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
I am not recognized for the work that I do, and I don't have the people to do it with that I want to do it with. So you're giving me all these things. I'm not paying attention to that.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention to these other things that I don't have.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
And I think that's a good segue to talking about how burnout can occur even outside of work. So it was primarily, and I think it still is primarily a workplace phenomenon, but I think it can happen outside of just work.
Yeah.
And I think this same structure that we're talking about could happen. I mean, think about workload. Well, God, what about the workload that happens at home?
I was going to say, my wife, I'm certain if my wife heard this, she would be like, I work too much. I'm I think she would feel, first of all, so I think she would ingest, and maybe not totally ingest. She would probably say, yeah, I have all those things. Hopefully she connects it to the value and all that kind of stuff. But I think it can in a relationship then, if I hear that, get me to be like, well, actually I do a lot too, and I'm underappreciated. And then it's the same split happens because people struggle to not focus on them, and then you end up sort of separating.
Right. The focus is on what you're not getting.
Yeah.
And I think about this, I think workload makes sense, especially if you have kids, because there's a lot, you come home and, well, your job's not done. And I think that goes back to one of the ones we talked about was fairness. There's a lot of, I think, opportunity for conflict to arise in relationships about fairness. And I think that has been the case for a long time, but I could see that like even in my relationship for a while there was, and my wife and I ended up talking about it, but like, all right, well, I do this thing, so that means you do this thing, and then she does this thing, and then I do this thing.
Yeah.
And for a while it was like, are we just trying to make everything equal?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I mean, that's not going to be consistent. There will be times when I'm doing more, like she was traveling a lot more for work for like a year and a half than I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did find myself getting a little resentful.
Yes.
All right, like for 1 week a month, I'm going to be taking care of the kids by myself.
Yeah.
And then trying to manage everything else. That didn't feel fair.
Yeah.
But then I had to come back and say, well, I mean, before she was doing this and I was doing, I mean, maybe not traveling as much.
Yeah.
But it didn't occur to me that it wouldn't feel fair to her. It only I felt disadvantaged because I was the one who felt that lack of equity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think if it's it can be a quick downward spiral if you start to focus too much on some of this.
Yeah, I think it's a downward spiral. So from a clinical standpoint, I would argue unless the relationship is in a bad place, you should not try to have a ledger that keeps things totally fair in your relationship. I have seen I've never recommended a couple to do this, but I have colleagues that would like have them write down what are the chores that you did, what are the things you did with the kids, in an effort to sort of help the family see the disparity. In my mind, the problem with that is that that is inherently selfish. You are trying to put on that paper, you're worried about you.
Yeah.
Right? Both people are trying to, on that paper, show what they do, and their focus is about them versus the focus being on, well, how do we make this relationship as healthy as possible?
Right.
And so I guess I would caution against
Yes.
that. That would be the argument against it is certainly you want things to be fair, but what you really want to think about is, well, what would be the healthiest thing for this relationship?
Yep.
And is it for this relationship, I need to take care of the kids while my wife travels, or is it for the relationship, I need to take less trips and take care of my family?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's but all that I think protects against burnout.
Correct. And I like what you're saying there too, because it's almost like the relationship is an entity, someone outside of just the two people.
Yes. That is like if I had to give you like my mantra for couples counseling, that would be it.
Like this thing exists outside of you. You're part of it.
The relationship is more important than you.
Yeah.
You're not in the relationship because it makes you feel good. That's not the goal. Because then what happens when you don't feel good? Then you're going to go somewhere else. You know, the relationship has to be its own entity.
Right. So you have to, nurture that entity. To make it work. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I think the one that when I look at this list, I worry about on the personal side is the control. So I have a tendency to be a bit more controlling, especially at home. Like, things done a certain way. I've joked before, I like to plan vacation. I think you asked me this when we were talking about love languages. Like, do you plan vacations?
Yeah, I was hurt. I thought you had planned our vacation because you loved me.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of that too. But, I do like to have things done a certain way. I can be fairly persnickety. And so I try to be cognizant of that oftentimes. And I would say one of the things that my wife will call me on most is, you're trying to control things. Why do you care? Stop caring about, which is what I would tell anyone if I was a different person and I was coaching me, I'd say the same thing.
Yeah.
It is 100% accurate. Stop caring so much. Manage the outcome, not the process. But you're trying to manage the process because you want things done a certain way, or you want to leave 5 minutes earlier, or you want to do this one thing, but you're with a group of 10 people. So if you're going to do things, then you can't manage the process so closely.
Yeah.
And that's the one I struggle with most, because I want to do things the way I want to do them. But what about you? Which one of these in your relationship would you think would be difficult for you to do or not to do?
No question. As a perpetrator, it will be control.
Okay.
I have all the control.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have all the control.
I was going to say, I think Allison would beg to differ.
I want the control. So I think Allison would say that, like, I would be at risk of disengaging her in the relationship or leading to burnout if I'm too controlling. I'm sure she would also say that the work is not distributed fairly, and she would probably also.
Well, I was just at your house, and I could see that even in the short interaction that I had with you. Yeah.
Immediately, it stuck out to you.
Yeah, Allison, I'm on your side. I think.
I think Allison's critique would be that I don't do enough, that the work is distributed not fairly, and that I am controlling.
Yeah.
Those would be the two.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like I'm a very good, great.
Well, I describe you have a lot of positive things, attributes as well.
I'm real nice.
Right.
Yeah,
you're easygoing. You're very unstructured, so you may have a strong idea and then you forget what it is. So that's one of your upsides.
What's a really good combo that I have is that I don't plan or organize anything.
Right.
But I have high expectations for what's going to look like.
That's good. So before we go to like what to do if you're burned out, there was something I encountered when I was preparing for this research. I looked for like demographic differences. Like, are there people who are more likely to be burned out than others just given who they are? The only thing I found that had any consistent research were people who are younger in their careers. So what researchers find is that if you are less tenured or younger in your career, you are more likely to be burned out. And the reason for that, they say, is because those folks usually have less control. We were talking about before, like being a pair of hands. Oftentimes, the younger you are in your career, the more likely you are to be a pair of hands. I never thought about that before. Like, would there be those demographic differences? I also look for like male-female differences, and there's no consistent research there. There's maybe a bit more consistent research on like roles at home, where women will feel more burned out because of the emotional labor that oftentimes will take place, where they're feeling kind of probably like Allison feels, right? They're just doing more work.
Wrong.
Right?
Yes, they're wrong.
Right.
But yes.
But that's not very conclusive.
Okay, so I guess intuitively it makes sense that yes, if you're earlier in your career, you're operating as a pair of hands, less meaning or purpose, more likely to be burned out. But I wonder what the role of social media is in it. Because if you're a younger person, you're on social media, you're constantly comparing like your work to the work of other people. You feel like your work isn't as valuable. I wonder if there's a piece of it which is perspective taking, and you always feel like your role is smaller than that of your peers.
You're comparing
online.
yourself to someone else.
Yeah.
I could see that. I didn't look into that, but that would make sense.
Okay, can I complain about not my wife, but in relationships in general.
I don't know when this podcast will ever be over, but I sometimes want to bet, like, which will last longer, this podcast or your marriage as a result of this podcast. But go ahead.
Okay. So there is a lot of research which shows that women are less satisfied in relationships than men.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
The question is, are they actually less satisfied, or are they just more likely to report being less satisfied? So for in a traditional marriage, the female will say, "I'm burned out. I'm doing too much. The burden of taking care of the family or the kids or whatever is a lot."
Right.
The traditional husband may be more reluctant to make the same complaints.
Right.
But I think if you looked at other negative behaviors like self-harming behaviors, the husbands are more likely to engage in it. So the men may not seek clinical support at the same rate as the women, but I think that you could argue that they certainly feel the distress the same way.
I think some of the inconsistent results that I found would say something similar, is that women are more likely to report burnout than men more broadly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there are actually sex differences between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So Dave, you have a client who's burned out. What do they do?
I think I think the first thing is I do think it's important for people to clock whether or not it's burnout or they just don't like their job. Mm-hmm. And for me, the thing that I'd be looking at is there clinically significant issues outside of work?
Sure.
If you just are bored at work or you hate your boss, I think it's a different problem than this job is giving me anxiety I'm taking home and it's affecting my marriage or whatever. And then I think if they're burned out in their job, I think that it is to want to find agency, so find ways to advocate for themselves. Can they? I think people need to be on a path to improve whatever the circumstances. If they feel like they're just on a treadmill and nothing's going to ever get better, that's a recipe for a disaster. But if they feel like I'm going to do this for X number of months and then things are going to change. So I'll say it this way. I oftentimes, when people say, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I always say to them, well, what's the timeline? How long are you going to stay in this job? And let's just decide what you're going to do. So if you're going to say, I'm going to put up with this for one more year, then I think you should go like, okay, I'm going to put up with it for a year. And between now and then, you're going to engage fully in your job to try and make it better. At a year, you quit.
Yeah.
But don't just say, I hate my job, and I'm going to passively suffer for an indefinite amount of time until my circumstance changes. So it's like, I think it's about getting structure around what am I going to do to make this better, or how long can I tolerate it, and then what am I going to do to make it better?
Right.
And that may mean leaving the job.
Right. So you're saying is first make sure that it is burnout and not another issue, and then second, make some sort of action plan. Like, what are you going to do to address this for you?
Yeah. What would you do? How do you approach it?
Well, I think going back to those different mismatches, it could depend. So if I feel like I have, like, the work or the tasks are too burdensome, are there opportunities for you to leverage other resources, get more support or something like that? If I feel like I don't have any control, can you ask for it? Can you ask for maybe more of that agency that you were talking about before? Is there something more that you can do to feel like you're more in control of your job? If it's not getting the feedback or the recognition that you're looking for, that can be a little bit dicier. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable to say, hey, I need to be recognized more. But I've worked with people before who, when we have conversations with their managers, there's a way to talk about all the effort that someone invests. And if I'm working with a manager, I do a lot of work in the construction field, and I think this happens more here than in other places I've found, where because not everyone is motivated by feeling recognized, that, if I'm a manager and that's really important to you, I may not do that.
Right.
So it's important for me to recognize as a leader that just because it's not important to me doesn't mean it's not important to other people.
Right. Yep.
And so having conversations, if I'm a leader, are you recognizing your people? And if I'm a team member and I work for someone who doesn't recognize them, how can you bring that up to them?
Be able to articulate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple of examples
that's really good.
of what you can do.
Yeah. Good.
What else?
That's all I got. Well done, Rob.
Thank you, as always.
As always.
Yeah. So if you like what you heard, please listen to us more, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or YouTube at Shrink Space Show. And as Dave mentioned before, if you have ideas for our Am I the Asshole segment or other comments for us broadly, you can email us at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Later.
Thank you, Rob.